using his actual name. And
Or
Yeah.
governor or Democrats in Colorado or, you know,
Well,
whatever.
like I just read that I did some research on. I read this morning that that illegal alien that got in that massive car wreck and or truck wreck and killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Polis like set him free. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell? You know what? Why is it that these people get more sympathy and Tina Peters is in jail for freedom of the speech?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
well, in the Polis thing, if I think it's the case I'm thinking of, the guy who was coming down I-70 and had the runaway truck ramps and stuff, he got like 103 years or something, and then Polis reduced it down to maybe 10 years or
10
something.
years.
But he didn't
Yeah.
just set him free, you know, completely. But you know what, that's on the periphery of what I talk about, so I wouldn't bet on the details on that one way or another. But
Well,
know
I mean, he said he is on this ad only runs for Jim on a very conservative, like he said, they're like QAnon or something like that.
Yep, that's
I don't
what
even know what that is,
Yeah,
but this is a very, very conservative station. But it's his best pulling ad. And my experience is a lot of people are leaving the state, not because they don't love it, but because of what the government has turned to.
what it has become. I mean,
Yeah.
I
And
remember when I first came here, they were just then starting to talk about Californiating or Californication or whatever, and I thought it was an exaggeration. It was an understatement. It's only gotten worse year by year by year.
yeah. So anyway, I don't know if I'm going to have the bravery to do it, but and then one of my colleagues in Atlanta, she's on a Hispanic station. And she goes, "Oh, I should do an ad on how to get ICE to stop chasing you." Because those are her clients. ICE is chasing them. They have to leave the country. She goes, "They're motivated sellers. Kids and wife are at the border ready to go and they're waiting to sell their house." I'm like, oh my God, Myra, that's hilarious.
Did you watch the State of the Union?
Anyway, it's out of the box. It's a little wild. That's
Yeah.
Jim. But I don't know if I'll have the courage to do it. Even, when I start to get a little sassy on the show, I worry about it. But those are just agents. They don't have the resources to sue me.
Yeah.
The governor might.
The governor
Yeah.
might.
Hang on a sec.
I think when you step away from that microphone, she can barely hear you.
Got it.
It's not just the turn this thing on. It's not just the governor. It's also the state legislature.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Probably more than ever.
I would have to say, and I don't think there's anything moderate about the governor whatsoever, but he, compared to some of the legislators, absolutely looks moderate compared to many of them.
And that's why you said you would make it more about the Democrats in our state legislature that are driving people out instead of.
They are just, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty awful.
And the thing is, I think it just does come down to, because you have to ask, how in the world did people like this, the very two worst from the last legislature were actually appointed. They didn't run and win. One of them was this woman, Elizabeth Epps. She had been a protester / rioter. She was as a black activist as you could possibly get. She got hit by a non-lethal round that gave her a bruise, and she got tons of money. So she ran for the legislature. And then there was another guy who was appointed. We got to win elections. I hate to be so pessimistic, but I don't know how in the world that anybody even has a plan for us to take back the House or the Senate, or at least be able to just shut it down so that there's nothing but gridlock. And
Yeah, I'd be real happy over that.
I would too.
Anyway, it's
All
a
right.
thought.
I am.
They should all become realtors.
Jeez. I could just picture some of these people being folks that you have to deal with. If those were the people in the industry, you'd either be having the time of your life because you'd enjoy yanking them around so much, or at a certain point you would just say, to hell with this, I'm giving up on this and call it.
Well,
a day.
I'm just saying, my clients are leaving the state, and I would say probably half of them is
Wow.
over politics,
Yep.
and that the state's gotten really liberal, and you know, it's
I
kind of, it's
account
too
for
bad. It's
two
so
of
pretty.
them. I mean, my daughter and her boyfriend are probably as well. I could go on for a long time on that. David, do you have a clock? David's got a clock. I got a clock.
I'm ready.
I don't have a script, but I'm leaving that to David these days. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb's also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have got to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it's always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or just go ahead and search for Barb. You'll find her on all of the popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. So, Barb, what's in store for today?
Well, hello, Richard. I'm so excited about today's show. Did a little bit of research on this one, and it's going to be different than most of them. The first one we're going to talk about are the top 10 things that every seller should know and they should ask before they put their home on the market. You know, if you're thinking about selling your home, there's a lot of questions that you should be asking, not just you, but the agent you decide to work with, and how to get ready for the process, because it is a process and not everybody loves the process, you know. So you want to be prepared so there are no surprises. Nobody likes surprises. And then the second topic is one that I probably get questions on almost every transaction: how to avoid a low appraisal when you're selling the home. And one of the things that I think is very interesting is that even though it's a buyer function, so the buyer is getting an appraisal for their loan, right? It's a lender requirement. The seller cares about it too, because that's something late in the process that could actually derail the transaction. So you don't want that to happen. So we're going to be talking about that. And then one of my favorite topics is how you know for sure that your home is going to sell with absolute certainty, guaranteed. We're going to talk about our guaranteed cash offers, our guaranteed price, and our guaranteed sale program. You don't want to miss that. And then the fourth one is something that I run into all the time going through the typical transactions with my clients, but it is basically the biggest mistakes that home sellers make that can cost them $10,000 or more at closing, and how to avoid them. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
I look forward to those as well. Most of the listeners do. Barb, in this market, the interest rates are staying the same. And even though it's prime selling season, people don't always sell their homes that often. What are the top 10 things that every home seller wants to know before they list their home here in Colorado?
Well, I think the biggest mistake most home sellers make is they don't really have a strategy, and they assume that they're going to have complete success, that it's going to sell, they're not going to have any problems, and their buyer's going to buy it as is. And unfortunately, that's just not true in today's market. So having a plan and asking good questions is really, really important for home sellers. So we're going to walk through the top 10 things that as a home seller you should know and what you need to understand actually before you sign an agreement to let somebody handle the sale. So the number one thing that people ask me, and a lot of times they're doing that well ahead of when they actually want to go on the market, is what is my home worth right now? You know, we had the benefit of this recent boom, this recent surge in prices that probably started in 2018, and the prices almost doubled through the middle of 2022. And then when the Fed raised the interest rates, the buyers couldn't buy anymore. It was actually cheaper to rent than it was to buy. So it really put a stop on the massive price growth in our market. It stopped inflating it and made it go flat for a couple of years. But what I'm seeing in my own business, and I'm talking to real estate agents all across the country, some of the top producers in the country. I just came back from a conference with them, and they are saying the same thing, that all of a sudden the buyers are coming out in force. So that tells me, okay, buyers are at a point where the rates are low enough where they're willing to make offers on homes where they were a little bit reluctant before. And so that means you have to position the home correctly with the right value. I know a lot of people want the most money, but it's really not wishful thinking. It has to be based on what a similar home would sell for and how you stack up the home against competition. Because the buyers, I think, know the market better than most real estate agents for the criteria that they're looking for. They are on it. They're looking at all these tech company websites. I just put a buyer under contract this morning, and they know exactly what's available within their criteria, and they know if it's a good value or not. And they've already made their decision probably before they even talk to a real estate agent as to whether or not they want to go see it and they want to go actually or explore that house further. That's a big shift from what we saw years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, when the quality of the photos wasn't really that good, nor was it very comprehensive. Most of the agents now are putting anywhere from 30 to 50, sometimes more pictures of each home online. But so it gives them a pretty good idea what the home looks like. And they're deciding right there online at home, looking at their phone or looking at their iPad, whether or not they're actually going to go look at that home based on the whole thing. And especially pricing matters. I know that for a fact because I have a lot of homes right now that are unfortunately taken back in foreclosure. And I'll be honest, they're a mess. They've got holes in drywalls. They've got paint splashed on the walls. Their plumbing doesn't work. But man, those things are priced right and they're sold for a premium, and the buyers will forgive all flaws because of price. So that's why that's such a critical phase in the process. And a home seller needs to know how much they're going to put in their pocket when it sells. We do that as a free, no obligation service for any home seller. We can send you kind of a general idea of what the home will sell for. But to really get a great idea of what you'll put in your pocket when it sells, we have to take a look at it. And you have to consider all the things on how much you're going to put in your pocket when it sells. Usually, let me say that word again. I couldn't say it. Usually the biggest expense actually is mortgage. It's not commission, but commission is a part of the closing cost. And there could be other things that come up like repairs. Maybe the buyer is asking the seller to pay their loan closing costs. There's all these different things. And you have to know what the strategy is going forward. And this is a free service that we provide that will come out, look at your house, give you an opinion on what it will sell for, give you a net sheet so you'll know exactly what you have in your pocket when it sells. And then we'll also give you the best strategy session for your home. You don't have to pick it. We're just giving you the best idea on the way to make the most money when you sell your home. And a lot of people wonder, well, we're still in, February. It might be too early to have your home go on the market. But the truth is, this year, I have not been this busy this time of year before in my career. So that tells me that the buyers are coming out right now. The rates are at a point where the buyers are saying, yep, we're going to do this. We're not going to wait around anymore. Maybe the rates will come down later in the year, but they want to get in on buying a home right now. So it's a great time to sell. The rates are reasonable. The inventory is low, so you have less homes to compete with. The buyer demand is definitely coming up. And it's we're walking into prime season right now. Generally, between now and before June is the hottest time period for home sellers to get the most money. And the reason I say that, especially around the Colorado Springs areas, there are something like 5 military bases around here. A lot of those service members will get orders in the spring to move in the summer. So they're looking now. They're not waiting to the summer. They're picking their houses now. And with fewer homes on the market, it's the best time for the home seller to position themselves to get the most money. And then what about repairs? That is a huge question that you should consider. Should I do repairs? Should I update things? You don't need to over improve. Your house doesn't have to look like HGTV. Basically, you want to focus on the basic cosmetic stuff so buyers can move in, drop their stuff, and get on with their lives. Some of the upgrades may not really be something that a buyer pays for. A buyer won't stroke a check for solar. I hate to say this. A lot of people will argue with me about it. But at the end of the day, when buyers are out looking, if they get a solar when they buy a house, it's a bonus, but they don't pay more for it. So that's not a good investment in my view. At least do it for you, but don't do it for your buyers, what I'm saying. Focus on the important stuff that the buyers care about: paint, flooring, cleaning, repair any deferred maintenance. Those are the things, and pricing it right, that will really make a difference. And generally, it takes longer to sell a home now. The average days on market are about 5 months, right? So you have to be ready. Excuse me. And plan ahead. And don't be surprised if it takes 5 months or longer to sell it. In my view, if it does, it's a pricing problem. It's probably not marketing. So if you're sitting on the market, it's not selling, it's probably a pricing problem. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. We're talking about the top 10 things that a seller should know before they list their Colorado house. And next up, we're going to hit on a few things like negotiation, the sales process, and how to buy your next home before selling your current one. Richard?
Talking with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can always reach Barb at 719-301-3900. Now, Barb, we're talking about the top 10 things that sellers want to know before they list their home for sale. How do home sellers get their home sold fast and to the finish line?
Well, number one, the best way to sell it fast and for the most money is just to be the best home in your criteria, in your price range. Take a look at the competition. Make sure there's no deferred maintenance. The only way you can get by with having deferred maintenance is if you price it well below current similar sales. And don't be surprised if buyers come in and ask for closing cost and lowball the offer, and they want a big buyer agent commission, or they ask for appliances. That's just the perception right now from the real estate agents out there, is that it's a buyer's market. I don't think so. I think we're more leaning towards a seller's market where seller has the advantage, but the agents think it's a buyer's market. So don't shoot them down if they make an offer. Work with them, negotiate with them, because a lot of buyers don't like rejection and they may just pick another house. If they've made an offer, love on them and try to make something work. And there will be inspection surprises guaranteed. I've got one I'm working right now where the first buyer walked away over alleged structural, but we can't find anything structural wrong with the house. I had another agent where another agent basically convinced these plumbing companies to, based on this fisheye lens video of the sewer line that the unlicensed inspector did, that indicated that it was fisheye shaped and not round. And so he negotiated with these plumbing companies to write bids for $9,000 to $13,000 to repair it. But it turned out there was nothing wrong with the sewer line. It was perfectly wrong. It was perfectly round. It was just his fisheye camera that made it look like it was broken. So it was kind of a fraud. Appraisal issues, that could be something that you have to be concerned about. And we prepare for that in advance. The whole next topic is going to be about appraisers. So I'll deep dive in that here in a few minutes. And then also how to buy your next home. So we have programs where our buyers can come in and get your next home for you before you sell your current home. And the costs are very, very low. So if you're thinking of doing something like that, if you see your dream home, but you're worried about your house selling, we can help you. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll give you a free in-home consultation. We'll give you a strategy meeting, how to prepare for the house, show you our marketing, give you an idea what the home will sell for, show you the net sheet, and show you how we're going to negotiate to get the best deal for you. So give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker, the real estate voice of your home sold, Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb, 719-301-3900. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to avoid a low appraisal when you're selling your home. Stay tuned for that.
It went a little bit long. Let's go on that first one.
All right, let's see here.
That'd be a good newsletter.
You know, you are just such a wealth of information. Well, needless to say, I brag about you on the air and off, but off the air, I just tell people, I mean, I can't say it enough, and that is, this is going to be the biggest transaction, and you want somebody who has got the experience, knows how to do it, and I think you just prove that every weekend, every Saturday. You
Thank
prove
you.
it over and over and over again. And I think, you know what, I think it would only take somebody, because I recommend to them that, don't wait until you're ready to sell. If you work with somebody, you got somebody in your family, or you're thinking a year out or whatever, and I guarantee you, there's no way somebody could listen to your show and come away without wanting you to represent them. I just can't even conceive of it.
I find when I talk to people, they're not necessarily waiting for my show. They're doing something else. They're shopping. They're getting in and out of the car. They're working on a hobby. They're working in the garage, and they'll happen to have, KVOR on, and they listen. So they don't catch all of it. So I used to be worried about repeating myself, but I think it's okay.
I don't. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, if they're going to go back and, like we say, go to a podcast and listen to the whole thing, that's one thing. But just generally, people do catch bits and pieces, and I don't think you sound redundant ever. Just ever.
Thank you.
Just doesn't happen. All right. I've got number 2
Take
here.
this sweater off. My little hovel. DJ got to see my little corner.
That's what he said. You guys are thinking about making some changes?
Yeah, I kind of want to set up a podcast studio, set up back there, and maybe start interviewing people. Like, I'd love to interview roofers and title companies, and
Oh, wow.
I think that will get some sponsorship, as well as just some kind of fresh sound,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great idea. I think that is a great idea. Okay, I'm ready to go here.
Ready?
Body found downtown Colorado Springs. Huh.
What happened?
I'm just looking. It's hard when you look at the news and it says body found in downtown Colorado Springs. So we don't have a crawl, so I can't see that. But unfortunately, KKTV only had about 20 seconds worth of video. And
Mm.
so they just keep showing that 20 seconds over and over and over again. And, I'm curious because there's a it's probably somebody who's homeless, but
Yeah.
there's a big difference between a transient who dies of a drug overdose and somebody that was, on their way to work in the morning and got jumped or something. So,
Yeah. It's very sad to me that I can't imagine, you know, we're just so
all right.
spoiled.
Yeah, I know. All right, I got segment two. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, there are many steps to the home selling process, and if a buyer is getting a loan, their lender will require an appraisal. How do our home sellers avoid low appraisals when they're selling their homes here in Colorado?
Well, I mean, most home sellers are pretty excited once they get an offer because in their mind, they're happy. They've got, the hard part done, catching a buyer, and they're moving. They're already planning their move. They've got to go here in a short period of time. There's a big project ahead of them, and they want everything to go right. So they're kind of celebrating, but now what happens? Okay. So now, all right, we got to worry about an inspection. We got to worry about we got to worry about a lot of different things in order to make sure this whole process goes well. So I'm going to walk you through the appraisal process, what it means, what you have to worry about as a seller and a buyer, essentially. And first of all, not every home sale needs an appraisal. The appraisal is for the lender. So if somebody's getting any type of loan, most of the time they will require an appraisal. And what it is it's substantiation from a licensed third party that the home is worth the agreed upon sales price and that the home meets the loan guidelines for that loan approval. And the underwriter checks that. So the thing that I find kind of twisted about the real estate industry is, they ordered the appraisal up front. It could take 10 days to get that done. In the meantime, they're doing the inspection. Then the appraisal comes along and that gets done. Then all that stuff, the loan application and the appraisal, gets sent to the underwriter, the loan approval person, late in the process. And that's the first time they've seen it. So some things go sideways late in the process with regard to the appraisal. And so we're going to talk about that and some ways that you can prevent that from happening, because nobody likes surprises when they're packing up their house. They've already picked another home that they're going to. So we're going to talk about that. Normally they cost about anywhere from $850 to $1,000 nowadays. It is a buyer cost. However, if the buyer negotiated with the seller to have the seller pay their loan closing cost, actually the seller is going to be paying for it. And what is an appraisal? It's basically a third party opinion of value and confirmation that the home meets the loan guidelines. It protects the lender, not the buyer, but the lender from overfunding the sale, basically. Neither the buyer nor the seller select the appraiser. They're done through this pool process, and it's supposed to be an independent review of the opinion of value. The appraisers don't like to be influenced at all. However, normally they call the listing agent. So this is my opportunity to help them with their job. I went to appraiser school and passed. I just didn't like the work. It wasn't fun for me to do a massive, highly detailed 40-page document on every house. So what the appraisers do is they look at recent similar sold homes. They don't care about active homes or even under contract homes. They try to compare apples to apples, meaning a 2-story with a finished basement against a 2-story with a finished basement. They usually won't bring in something that's different, like a 2-story with an unfinished basement or a 2-story against the ranch. That's very unusual. Typically what happens If appraiser cannot find it, a recent sale like that in the neighborhood, they will go outside to a different neighborhood to find a similar home. They also look at lot size, location, square footage, improvements. Generally, appraisers don't care too much about decor. In other words, the house doesn't have to look show ready for when the appraiser visits the home. It's a little helpful if it does. But what they care about, and what I ask my sellers to do, is put together a list of recent improvements, especially improvements in the last 5 years, are very valid to them because that helps them support and substantiate its value. They also care about the loan guidelines. So what do I mean by that? So for like the government loans, the FHA and VA loans, which is about 65% of the buyers in this market, they're checking for habitability, meaning the plumbing and the heat have to work, safety. They're real sticklers on peeling paint on the outside of the home, regardless of its age. They will ask for broken windows to be fixed, safety issues like missing outlet covers or missing window well covers that open the door for kids and dogs or whatever to fall into. I've had them ask for leaning fences. Those are the kind of things that the appraisers will need to get repaired before it can close for it to meet the loan guidelines. I recently had one where they required the rotted wood on the deck. The problem was the whole deck was rotted. So the seller ended up having to replace that, but I found a pretty reasonable price to get that done. Now, there are some wild cards that happen with appraisers. I just had one happen. And I had one years ago where they don't usually go up on the roof. They're not inspecting the house like an inspector would do. They're not going to open the furnace. It's more of a cosmetic look. They're only in the house for about 35 minutes. But if something stands out, they will make note of it. So this one house I had years ago, it was a 50s home. I don't think the roof had ever been replaced. It was visually deteriorated to the point where you could see it from the street. So in that case, the appraiser asked for the roof to be replaced. Most of the roof damage we see in this market are the little round dings on the roof shingles that you can't see from the ground. They're not going to ask about that. I had one recently that the county records did not show the current seller in title. So we had to get that resolved before we closed. So VA and FHA can be a little bit pickier, but not difficult. Things like if it's missing, some people, when they move out, they take the rail off the staircase. You got to put that back on, that kind of stuff. I had for conventional loan, about the only thing I've had a conventional appraiser ask for was that there was a sidewalk outside where there was an aspen tree next to it, and the roots had lifted the sidewalk so much so that it created a safety trip hazard. So they asked for that to be fixed, which was relatively inexpensive. Now, do the appraisers consider the contract price? I would guess so. I mean, they have to have a copy of the contract. I will tell you that seller paid closing costs to actually hurt the value. They don't help the value, but things like views, recent improvements, overall condition, they help the value. Also, market conditions. So let's say this is one of the things where I try to sell the house to the appraiser. If they're coming out, I go, hey, we got 8 offers on this home. And even though we're asking this price, our highest offer was up here, but the seller didn't take that because we weren't sure the financing was going to go through. So we went with this offer, but we could have actually gotten more. So that's just giving them, they just put comments in the appraiser about market conditions if there are bidding wars and things like that that go on. And we have a way to help sellers get multiple offers, not just from our investors, but also from buyers. So if you are thinking of making a move and you'd like to take a look at our cash offers right there online, you can go to barbhasthecashoffers.com or just give us a call at 719-301-3900. And if you like a free home in-house consultation on how to get ready for sale, get a really good idea what your home will sell for and how much you'll put in your pocket, as well as look at multiple cash offers, call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show. It's called Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how do you avoid low appraisals when you're selling your house. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some things that you can do as a homeowner to pass your appraisal. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are thinking of making a move, simply call Barb at 719 301 3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb, we're talking about appraisals on homes that can have a home seller. Barb, we're talking about appraisals on homes. What can a home seller do to pass that appraisal process?
Well, Richard, it is basically a pricing step for the most part. Sometimes they ask for repairs, but it's not common. The most common things are, is that home worth what the buyer agreed to pay? That's what the appraiser is trying to figure out. And if the home seller plans ahead, they can avoid some problems on the appraisal. So from the price standpoint, we take a look at similar sales. And we're trying to find the best ones that suit that home sale. Now, I had one recently where it was a little bit of an anomaly for the neighborhood. In other words, there were homes that square footage in the neighborhood that sold for a lot less. But what made this house special is that it had a main level master, which is pretty uncommon for a two-story. It also had unobstructed, spectacular views. Those two things definitely add value. So we had to find similar homes like that. And so I provided those to the appraiser. Some appraisers won't take them, but I'm trying to give them information to help them support our contract price. And what they do with it is up to them. And I've had some come in low too. I just had one recently where even though I felt like similar sales were a slam dunk price wise, she came in 5,000 low. And at that point in the process, what do? We were already over asking price. You know, the buyer didn't have the difference in cash to come up with. We didn't want to lose the buyer a week before closing. So the seller ended up having to lower the price at that point. But it was still, we were still better off than where we were had we just gone back on the market. And then what about those lender property requirements? How can a home seller actually prepare for those? Well, first of all, you need to know the type of loan the buyer is going to get, but you can even plan ahead of that before you get a buyer. A tip, if 65 or 60% of the buyers are getting an FHA or VA loan, you should know they're going to tag any peeling paint on the outside of the house. The most common places we see peeling paint are around the doorways, around the trim. That's probably the typical thing. Every once in a while, I will see the appraiser ding, like on, if you look at that masonite type siding, sometimes when they build the house, they shove the nail in there so deep that there's a gap, and over time, the paint over the top of it starts to peel. So that's something that appraisers have tagged on my listings in the past. So you just want to take a really hard look at your home and look for peeling paint, even on the outbuildings and the shed, unfortunately have gotten tagged. So if you can touch that up, it doesn't have to match perfectly. It just has to not be exposed wood. Also, fix broken windows. They will tag broken windows. And you know what? It takes probably 3 to 4 weeks lead time to get the glass replacements for these windows minimum. So I would get ahead of that before you put your home on the market. Now, as far as negotiations, it doesn't say in the contract, and a lot of agents assume this, that, oh, well, if the appraiser says something has to be repaired, the seller must do it. No, it doesn't say that. It says the buyer must inform the seller, but it doesn't say who has to fix it. So sometimes in the real hot properties that are higher demand, that have those situations come up, you can ask the buyer to deal with it. It's for their loan. Why should the seller fix those things? You can negotiate that stuff, is my point. And now what I'm seeing is even the homes that don't meet the loan guidelines, and I've talked to lenders about this recently, if they can get a bid to make that repair after closing and set aside some money to repair that after closing, you can actually go ahead and close. And I'm seeing a lot of that on my homes that don't quite meet the loan guidelines, but buyers want to use the government loans to get them. So look for peeling paint, any unfinished repairs, odors, safety issues, that kind of thing. And if you are thinking of making a move, you can also sell your home for cash and not have to deal with any of this. If you'd like to get guaranteed multiple cash offers, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com and we can help you. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, simply call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to have certainty that your home is going to sell and that it's guaranteed.
Okay, I hope I covered that well enough.
I think you did.
I didn't finish all the content. Christ.
Oh my God, that's never happened before. It is, I will say one thing. Man, you prepare so much. And there's only been a couple of times that I can remember when you ran out of content or out of pages, I should say, and you just winged it. And I swear to God, if you wanted to, you could just probably walk in here with nothing, sit down and do a complete show off the cuff. I'm going to step in the men's room real quick. I'll be right
It would kill me. It's like I'm worn out after my little show. I can't imagine doing it for hours.
Can we take a look at this third segment?
The what?
How this third segment starts? I don't understand the question that Richard's supposed to read here to start off this segment. It just looks to me like
it should say many people don't like. I don't know what happened there. You're right. After many people, just many people dislike the process.
Okay.
Good catch. So did you get some new ads from the radio guys? From my marketing? Oh, he's not listening. Be right back.
So I wrote it right there.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that. All right. Oh, you already did. Very good then. David is amazing. I think you probably know that already. Oh. Okay, then. That is okay. I'm trying to.
All right, I'm back. I can't hear you. I don't know if I'm supposed to be hearing you, but I can't hear you.
Okay, we got number 3. We're good to go here. Barbara,
I'm ready.
David. I have to call him David all the time now. I used to call him DJ half the time, but now that he's producing full time,
But I answered a hey you. So.
I know, yeah. David just sounds more, appropriate or whatever. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and the host of the program. Now, Barb, right now, with homes sitting on the market longer than they may have in the past, many people dislike the process of putting their home on the market, keeping it clean for strangers, dealing with showings, doing this or that, knowing when to do it. How do home sellers have certainty that their home will sell and at the price and time that they want it to sell?
Well, Richard, I think the big surprise for home sellers is that not every home sells. In their mind, they're putting their house on the market, somebody's going to buy it, right? But what we've seen in the past couple of years since the rates went up is that fewer buyers can afford a home, right? And they're pickier than ever. So some homes sit on the market for various reasons. It probably is that they're overpriced. It could be other reasons. I had one a couple years ago where it was just a marketing problem. It wasn't the price problem. It was just the pictures are really bad. So the buyers didn't show up. But one thing that's a big surprise to me is that right now the average days on market is about 117 days. So it's about 5 months from the time you go on the market to get a contract. Now that's of the homes that are getting contracts. It doesn't mean every home that goes on the market. Right now we're sitting on probably 2,500 homes on the market. Every month, maybe 700, 800 are selling. So it's not all of them, right? Why is that happening? Well, different reasons. Buyers are picky. They reject homes. I just put a buyer under contract that made an offer on a couple of different homes. We got rejected 4 times on the first one. That was the stinky house. And then we pivoted to another house, still couldn't make a deal with them. And fortunately, the deal on the stinky house actually fell apart with the first buyer and they took our offer finally. But anyway, just that's what I'm saying. Do not discourage somebody that's making an offer on your home, especially in this market right now. But there is a growing segment of the population that doesn't want to deal with the whole home selling process and having weird people come through their homes. I just had to tag an agent recently because when she showed the home, she left the lockbox wide open with the keys right there. Oh, by the way, the combo was also dialed into the lockbox. And the seller, when he got inside the house, found that the medicine cabinet in the bathroom was open. Now, don't you think that's a little suspect?
We've talked
So,
about this before, but when showing a home, there are people who've got problems with drugs and they will rifle through to see if they can
yeah,
find something.
I banned her from my listings. I'm like, you can't come anymore without an escort. And you better send me a buyer agency that you have the authority to do that because I'm not dealing with door openers anymore. But anyway, so with more days on the market, it's a big pain point for home sellers to show their homes, to have strangers come through, to have the agents show up late, show up early. not show up at all, or do crazy things. So, the most common things I get on a very regular basis is that they leave the doors unlocked, lights not the way you want them. They don't take their shoes off. Recently, I had one, and I was really surprised at this one. They had just put in new carpet. New carpet was in the marketing. There was no mystery that there's new carpet in this home. But after showing, the seller went over there after church and found a fresh pizza box thrown on top of the brand new carpet on the floor. Now, who does that? I don't even do that on the ground outside in a parking lot. I find a trash can. It's like, oh, it's so frustrating. So there are people that don't want to deal with that process, and they can go online and go click, click, and get an offer right away. And that is a growth business. Actually, a year or so ago, it was about 1 out of 4 home sellers would take cash offers, not even deal with the open market. Now it's more like 1 out of 3. So more and more people are doing it. It's like the easy button. So some of the other pain points are that the seller's got to leave at dinner time. Oh, somebody wants to see the house. Now, I am not one of the agents that will say, make yourself available 24/7 to show your house. That's ridiculous. And whoever does that, it just puts a lot of inconvenience in your life. So I will tell the sellers, you tell me when you don't want to show, or you could decline the showing if something came up that we didn't plan ahead. There's nothing wrong with that. They will come back if they really want it. They've already fallen in love with the pictures. Or the other pain point for the typical sales process is if they have another home in mind that they want to buy, but they miss out on it because their home is not sold. We have got solutions for every one of these problems. Or another one that's really bad is if the sale falls through. I just had one happen not too long ago. We're 3 weeks in the process. The buyer paid for an inspection and an appraisal, and the lender's like, oh, sorry, he can't get a loan, and I can't tell you for confidential reasons. I'm like, that's just BS. There must be a reason you can't tell me this guy couldn't get a loan. He just spent a couple $1,000s on this house. That was his expense to get this home, and you didn't know he could get a loan. And I have to go back with the training. It's 1 month of school to be a real estate agent. It's 1 week of school to be a mortgage broker. And they are not the decision maker. They hand it off to an underwriter late in the process. And that's the person that decides whether or not they can get a loan. So those kind of things can be a nightmare for a home seller, especially if you're in the process of moving. Now, with a cash offer, you don't have to gamble anymore. It's a done deal. I just met with the seller last week, and she's taken one of those cash offers. She's already shopping for a new home. She's got total confidence this is going to be a done deal, and I believe it. So she didn't have to worry anything about it. So it's surprising to me that more and more home sellers are opting for the easy button. They don't have to deal with showings. They don't have to tidy up their house. They don't have to fix up their house. They can sell it as is. There's no negotiating on caulking or leaky faucets or made up leaky faucets. The reason I say that is most inspectors will go into a house and turn every single faucet on in the house and leave it running for the entire 2 hours of the inspection. Now, Richard, who lives like that with every single faucet running?
No one does it, and that can run the entire system dry so that you're pumping sand practically.
Right. Or cause leaks, right? And that's what happens. It'll cause leaks. The sinks will overflow, and they'll go, oh, there's a leak. You got to get the plumber to fix it. Yesterday, I got an inspection objection over a gadget. So it's another thing inspectors do is they come up with this, it's called a moisture meter, an infrared moisture meter. What it actually reads is temperature differentiation. It does not read moisture. It doesn't know anything about moisture. It's just looking at temperature. And so based on that assumption, they're asking the seller to pull out drywall, take apart this wall on a maybe. They don't know if there really is a leak there or not. So there's no other indication. So some of the stuff that comes up just drives home sellers crazy. I had one that went through 3 different inspections, a pre-inspection and 2 others. They're all different, which is crazy. And part of it has to do with the fact that the state does not, the one thing the state does not regulate is inspectors. You don't have to be qualified to be an inspector. A lot of people don't like signs in their yard. They don't want the neighbors to know that they're selling. You wouldn't believe how many times sellers report to me that they found strangers just wandering around in their yard. Or they'll knock on the door and ask to come in. I had one where it was a Friday. We were supposed to have the open house the next day. And so it was the summertime. She had the front door open, but the screen door closed. And some guy just walked in her front door and said, "Oh, is this the open house?" She's like, "No, it's tomorrow." So they have no common courtesy, I guess what I'm saying. I've had them peek in the windows. I had one seller that actually found buyers inside her garage. Can I help you? It's just bizarre. So with the guaranteed cash offer, you can bypass that whole thing. You basically get a whole bunch of offers. Now, a lot of people assume that these cash offers are lowball. No, they're a little bit more expensive than the traditional sale, but some of them come in at full market value. Some even go above it. And it works great for people that maybe have a job offer where they got to go at a certain time. They need to move now. They don't want to deal, or people that don't want to deal with renovating a home to get it ready for sale. I've had a lot of people opt for the cash offer just for that reason. Or let's say they want to rent back after closing because they need that. So basically, they can go to any one of my websites. You can go to Barb Has the Buyers or barbhasthecashoffers.com. Put your address in there, and we can get you multiple cash offers in just within 24 hours or sooner. So give us a call if you want to do that. barbhasthecashoffers.com, or just call us on the regular number 719-301-3900, barbhasthebuyers.com. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about that certainty of knowing your home is selling. And when we come back, we're going to touch on how to use the guaranteed offers to actually get you the most money. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb. The number is 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Now, Barb, how do you use cash offers to guarantee a specific sales price?
Well, home sellers, regardless of the price, some of them don't know, they don't have to accept any offer, right? So you could use the cash offers to leverage against other offers that you might receive through the normal sales process, as well as use it as a safety net or a backdrop, which I had a client recently do that, where we tried at this price. We couldn't seem to make things happen. They had to move. They took the cash offer. Then I went on to resell that home. So we put it back on the market at the same price, but that wasn't the price. It turned out that we had to lower the price a little bit to get where the market was willing to buy it. And at the point we lowered the price to that number, we got 3 offers at the same time, played mom against dad, was able to get the most money, and the sellers actually netted the most money of what the market could command on that home, which is really what you want. You can't necessarily guarantee that if you ask for a price that you're going to get it. So this is one way where you can basically get the best of all worlds, right? You can go ahead and see what the market will offer, as well as use that cash offer as a backup or leverage on your current buyers. And then if you, another issue that comes up a lot is basically that if you're going to go buy a home at your next destination, a lot of people will not accept those offers contingent on their home selling. So we've got programs where our buyers can come in and buy the home that you're going to buy before you sell your home, making the process really easy. And it's a very inexpensive, easy program to work with. And at the end of the day, it's all about the whole process. So not only do we guarantee a price range, we'll show up with multiple cash offers. We're going to market to our database of buyers in waiting. We've actually We've actually sold some homes before they ever hit the market. And that's really fun. And what we did was we had an open house and we leveraged our database of buyers against each other to get that home. Seller was happy, buyer was happy, and we got it done. So if you'd like to get guaranteed cash offers on your home, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthecashoffers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making that move, call Barb. The number is 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing the biggest mistakes that home sellers make that can cost them over $10,000 at closing, plus Barb's hot new listings. Don't miss that.
Okay.
If that doesn't get somebody's attention, I don't know what will. Lose $10,000. All right.
Hopefully that kind of made sense without really telling the whole program. Cash offer thing.
I think that's pretty easy to understand.
Okay. I'm supposed to be doing content at an 8th grade level. I don't even remember 8th grade.
Wouldn't it be so interesting if you could just, go back and have somebody would have shot videotape of, an hour of videotape of 8th grade. You're in class. This is at a party. You're doing this or whatever. It'd be interesting to compare what your memory of events is with what really happened.
And what is an 8th grade reading level? I don't know.
I know when I was in television, it wasn't even 8th grade. There was this guy, Ed Sardella, up at Channel 9 in Denver, and he was considered to be the very best guy. And he swore that you pretty much had to write at a 4th grade level if you really wanted to communicate with people.
When I was on Magic, they insisted that we not go above 6th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't even know what that looks like.
Well, I was going to say that. Here we are, 4th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade. I don't even know.
Let's go to elementary level.
Yeah. My brother, one of my brothers.
I know in kindergarten.
My brother is a substitute. My oldest brother, he's a substitute teacher at a private school.
Right.
And he said he doesn't like teaching like first, second. He says at least 3rd graders or older because the younger kids don't really get his weird sense of humor. Like they'll come up and go, Mr. Parker, I cut my finger. And he goes, oh, got to cut it off.
Oh,
well, the 1st and 2nd graders start crying, and the 3rd graders just start laughing. So, but.
There's a guy who wants me to watch some documentary on adolescence and how you go through adolescence and what you learn and how you learn it and everything. He's one of my best listeners, but he's recommended this thing to me several times, and he swears it's the most chilling thing in the world. And I've asked him a couple of times, I'm like, well, wait, what's so chilling here? And he won't tell me. And so
teaching kids.
It just makes me more reluctant. I mean, are you talking about there's some big chilling thing in terms of how they're trying to indoctrinate kids about something or whatever? I don't know. Everybody's got an agenda.
They're pretty scary smart. Like I've been to that one organization where they kind of teach kids to do a pitch for business. Right. I forget what it's called, but
Junior League?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those kids are smart. I would hire them. I'm like, wow.
And I do think, based at least what I see on social media, there is a world of difference between the kid that you just described and some of the other kids that they keep passing the kid because he is like 4 grades below, the passing reading level, but they just can't leave this kid in elementary school until he's 25. So what do? Just go ahead and pass him.
Yeah.
All right, I've got number 4 here.
Number 4.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program, and this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner-broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, you've helped a lot of our listeners over the years, and I know you say most home sellers want the most money, but what are the biggest mistakes that you're seeing home sellers make that can actually cost them a lot of money when they sell, as much as $10,000?
Well, I mean, a lot of people think they can maybe save money in their selling expenses by maybe getting the lowest commission or something like that. But not all real estate agents are the same. And the question really is, how good is your agent at negotiating? Because right now we've got this perception that it's a buyer's market out there with other agents. And it's really not quite. There's a little bit, I think the average concession between list price and ask price right now is about 2%. That's not a buyer's market. But the agents think so. So they go in for the kill and really lowball and try to get everything that they can. So, you want to make sure that you're prepared, that you don't get surprises down the road. So number one that will prevent that is if you avoid overpricing the home. According to the National Association of Realtors, if you price a home too high and slowly walk the price down, you're going to net less money. And a lot of people naturally want to build in a little negotiating room or build in some anticipated concession costs like seller paid closing costs, but it doesn't work. And the reason is the buyers are very informed. Just this morning, my husband showed me some properties on Zillow. And he goes, I didn't know it did that. It gave an opinion of value on the neighborhood, even if it wasn't for sale. And I guess it does. The buyers are very, very well educated on market values, and they can spot a deal a mile away. So how do you prepare for that? How do you make the home stand out so much so that the buyer is able to forgive some ridiculous repair request? Recently, I had 6 offers on this one property, and it needs some work. And it's owned by the government, right? And basically, the government sells their homes completely as is. They do not fix anything. They won't lift a finger. So how do you deal with that? Well, I tell them, if there's any repairs that have to be done, you're either going to have to get a renovation loan, or what some of the lenders are doing now is they set aside some of the funds into the loan to do those repairs right after closing. So the contract's very clear when it says that. And so we're 3 weeks into the process, and the agent calls me and goes, oh, well, the appraiser said this and this have to be fixed. And I said, I'm sorry, your contract is as is. They won't negotiate on repairs. And that was in your contract. Oh, yeah, but I thought if it was an appraisal repair, the seller has to do it. I'm like, no. And if your buyer, can't close because of that, then let me know, because there's a whole bunch of other buyers that want the house. And I said, by the way people are doing this on my other properties is they're getting what they call a repair escrow. They're getting bids for those repairs. They're setting aside the money. That means that they pass their appraisal. They can close without those repairs being done and do those repairs after closing. And she basically said I wasn't being a team player because I didn't give her what she wanted, even though I was trying to help her with the solution. She finally figured it out, but so they're still in contract. But, it's just an education thing, right? And if they don't have that experience before, they won't know what to do. And they're just making assumptions based on their historic experience. So most home sellers get really frustrated after they accept a contract. They're all happy when they got a contract. Then the buyer does the inspection and goes, oh, we'll take the house, but not unless you fix this and this and this and this. Now, it is a point of negotiation. You don't have to agree to that. However, it could mean you'll lose your buyer. And so I have to have that discussion with home sellers to go, they could walk away over this. I had one recently where it was definitely a hail damaged roof, but the seller's like, you know what? It's not leaking. It's minor damage. I am not going to file a claim because I won't get any money out of the insurance company. I'm not fixing it. So what we ended up negotiating was giving the buyer a credit in order to put the sealant. There's a sealant you can buy on a roof because roofs get hammered with hail in this climate all the time. And so he offered to pay half of that. And I wasn't sure if she was going to accept it. And she did. And then afterwards, I asked the buyer, I said, so I asked the buyer's agent, so do you think she's going to put that sealant on the roof? He goes, no, she's going to wait for the next hailstorm and then file her own claim. So there's a lot of negotiations that could take place in the process. And I was proud of the seller for standing his ground. But overpricing is probably the worst scenario because the buyers, if you ask too much for the home and you ultimately get a contract where the buyer's perception is they're paying full market value for the home, they're going to start going in for the kill when it comes to inspection, right? And so don't be surprised by that. However, if you have multiple offers and all these buyers are clamoring for the home, they will forgive certain condition issues just to get the house. And that is really the best position to be in when you are buying a home. Some other issues that could really sneak up and grab you are the sewer line and septic line. So I've kind of put my foot down about sewer lines. I've had so many experiences. This didn't start happening really until 2018. And all of a sudden, I call them Joe Billy Bob inspectors decided going to get this little rubber tube and sticking a camera on the end of it and scoping sewer lines. They went through toilets and through tubs in the beginning, and they were scratching floors and appliances and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is going on? Or they would do things like drop the cap down the sewer line and couldn't get it out. I had them rip vinyl flooring. I had them not properly reseat the toilet when they pulled the toilet without permission. Imagine somebody coming in your house, an inspector, and removing the toilet and not even asking. So I finally I was like, that's it. No more. Wouldn't you hate that, Richard? Somebody started tearing apart your house.
I would be fit to be tied. I mean, when you let somebody in for an inspection or a walk through the home or whatever, you're not anticipating they're going to be doing destructive or intrusive things like that.
Right. Right. I had one that basically created this big drama over a fisheye lens that I talked about in the last segment. I mean, I reached a point where I said, that's it. You don't get to touch the sewer line unless you bring in a licensed plumber who's qualified to do it. And I got pushback from that same agent, a different deal. You can't tell me what to do. I can inspect anything I want. My inspector is, God's gift to inspectors. And I'm like, I don't care. The seller respectfully requests you bring a plumber. And so she finally asked the buyer, and he goes, oh, well, sure, I'll bring a plumber. And we went from there. Septic systems are also, they can be a huge ticket item. I'm talking $35,000, $40,000 worst case scenario if you don't get ahead of this. So this is the answer I get every time I talk to sellers about sewer or septic system. I said, have you checked your sewer or septic system? Oh, we had it pumped 3 years ago. Or the sewer line answer is we haven't had any problems or backups, so it, must be fine, right? But when they find something that's not fine, it could get very expensive, especially septic systems. And it takes a long time if you have to do a major repair or replacement for permits and engineering reports and all that stuff. So you really don't want to go down that road. I would get ahead of it and do it in advance. I had one where the septic system was a problem. The seller didn't listen to my suggestion for a preferred vendor. He got a bid for $50,000 to replace his septic system. I said, you need another quote. Go back to that guy I recommended. And he did. And my guy was able to save him, instead of 50, it was 28,000. So don't waste time on this because the whole process takes a lot of time. If your septic system fails the inspection, you have to do a soils test and an engineer's report. Then you have to get a permit. Then you have to start building it. It could be months. I had one a couple years back where they started the process in March and we couldn't close until July because there was this big dirt hole in the front yard and the appraisal came around and goes, well, I can't close without that dirt hole being filled in, but we're waiting for the county to inspect. So it delayed the closing. You don't want to deal with these problems. So make sure that you plan these things in advance if you're planning to sell your home. In El Paso County, I think the requirement is you have to have the septic inspected within 6 months of the sale. Teller County, they quit doing it because the request overwhelmed their system, but most of the counties along the Front Range will require some kind of a septic inspection. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about some of the big mistakes that home sellers can make that will cost them over $10,000. And we're going to touch on how home sellers can pick a good strategy to prevent these surprises and big expenses in the home sale process. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Making a move? Call 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We've got time, Barb, to talk about some of your hot new listings. What do you have for us this week?
Well, first I was going to touch on a couple of things. First of all, to avoid these big mistakes.
I wasn't sure if we had time. Let me go back and we'll do that the way that it was written here. I wasn't sure if we had time. I'll read it the other way.
Yeah,
okay.
I am going to run long, but
okay. 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Now, Barb, we're talking about the biggest mistakes that home sellers can make, can cost them up to $10,000 or more when they sell their homes. What are some of the ways that our listeners can avoid making those costly mistakes?
Well, number one, if you price the home very realistically and you become the best available home on the block that buyers are competing for, they will forgive all sins and you'll command the most money. So that's one of the best ways. Another one is to do a pre-inspection, especially on those systems that take a long time. We offer something called a certified pre-owned home system where you can get that stuff done in advance. You know what's going on. You have more time to negotiate repairs and you actually will net more money when it sells. So if you would like to make a move and find out how much it would cost to sell your home, what all the expenses are, in our first meeting, we'll talk about that. We'll show up with our cash offers. We will actually show you what we think your home will sell for and how much you'll put in your pocket when it sells. And all you need to do is call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com and you can get those cash offers yourself. Richard?
Thank you for listening this week. Again, if you've got questions and you're interested, give Barb a call, 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Remember, you can listen to podcasts of the program as well as video by going to barbhasthebuyers.com. You'll find all the information there. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Barb, you take care.
We didn't do the hot listings.
Gosh dang it. You know what? I'm sorry. I've got.
It's okay.
You know what? Let me do this. I've got.
It sounded good. We recorded it, so we'll just go with the hot listings, and he'll just swap the order. Can you do that, DJ?
Absolutely. I've already written all this stuff down, so I'm
all right,
good to go.
Give me 1 minute. I've got a problem at home here, and I was trying to answer that while I was doing this.
I think it's just her portion that we need to record, so I can just.
Yeah, no rush on my part, Richard.
You want me to say hot new listings, Barb?
Yeah.
Just say that.
3, 2, 1. Barb, as always, your favorite portion of the program, your hot new listings.
Well, thank you, Richard. I have a really cool condo on the southwest part of town, priced at just $49,900. This home is in a great location and a great price, especially for like an Airbnb type deal. We also have a beautiful townhome on the southwest side of town at $274,999. Perfect for 2 adults living there with 2 master suites. A great home, kind of near Fillmore and Circle near the Colorado Country Club. Priced at $325,000 on North Mead. Another home on North El Paso that's owned by the VA. This home has a big yard. It needs some work, but you know what? It's a good buy, priced at $285,500. beautiful tri-level home on 4561 Bramble Drive, down in the Mark Shuffle area, priced at $365. Great home on 2 acres up in Florissant, priced at $400,000 on Stevens Drive. An amazing home on 2.5 acres, 7518 Vincent Drive, priced just under $1 million. This gorgeous home has views to die for, and it's in pristine condition with a remodeled kitchen, all new siding, all new windows. Everything's remodeled. It's spectacular. We also have an amazing ranch property, 34050 Judge Orr Road, priced just under $1.4 million. This beautiful ranch with a walkout basement, over 5,400 square feet. Plus, there is an auxiliary living unit, almost 3,000 square feet. Plus, there are garages to fill at least 11 cars. Plus, there's a really nice barn that your 4-legged family members would really, really appreciate. And then an amazing estate up in Florissant, 2754 County Road 421, priced at $2.15 million. This is another home on 35 acres with views of 5 mountain ranges. Plus, it has an amazing detached building that also has an auxiliary living unit and places to park at least 8 cars plus an RV. So to find out about all of our listings, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com and click on featured properties. Richard? And I think we're done, right?
What do we want to go with here, Barb? The top 10 things every home seller wants to know before they list. How to avoid low